Hi, welcome to my channel, Grit, Grind and Gratitude, where we talk to micro entrepreneurs about their journey of becoming a micro entrepreneur and walking that path. Grit, Grind and Gratitude shares stories of resilience, of purpose, and values led entrepreneurs who are shaping their futures boldly. Hi Grace, it's a pleasure to welcome you on our channel Grit, Grind and Gratitude. We met at a school event and it was so lovely to know your journey from PNG to Nuraya. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the world and to our listeners.
Thank you so much, Deepa, and it's a pleasure to be here on this lovely morning. And yes, how our worlds collided, and it was amazing to just meet and find ourselves in this space where we'll just talk about. I love your podcasts, Grit, Grind, and Gratitude. Very important and amazing things to center on. So let me introduce myself. My name is Grace Roimen, and I like to start from what matters most and what is the center of my life, which is I am a wife. I am a mother of 3 amazing kids. They'll still be my babies, so 12, 10, and 5-year-old. And I love serving that role and being in that space of motherhood and parenting, and of course spending time with my husband. And on the other side, I'm also a career proper total, love my career world. So I'm a career lady. I have had an active career for the last 17 years. As soon as I stepped out of campus or university, most of us call it, I was in the market and doing what I love. I'm a finance professional. So I have had a career that has been centered around the world of finance, starting in a company called PNG, Procter & Gamble, working all different roles within finance in that setup and in different regions. So I had such a rich career with PNG for 15 years. And the last space in terms of when I finished off in PNG, I finished off as the regional finance director for Sub-Saharan Africa. And I stepped out of PNG 2 years ago. And today I am an entrepreneur. So I wear the third hat, which I never thought I would get to this space, but I am so glad I did. I will be honest, I sort of stumbled into it, but sometimes it's not a story of luck. It was it was meant to be. So I'm also an entrepreneur, and I am a co-founder of 2 companies, Nuraya Consulting and Jazz Lot Studio. That's me.
Great. So tell us a little more about each of these companies and the gap in the market that these companies are filling up.
Lovely. So these 2 companies are so worlds apart in terms of what they do. And for those who know me from a personality point of view, somehow they perfectly fit with my personality. So I'll start with Nuraya. Nuraya Consulting is a space that was born out of the need to bridge strategy and execution. So with a group of 4 other friends that actually are all ex-PNGers, and that is a space that has brought us together. We all left PNG at different spaces and different times, but we all realized that we were all trying to do in our own niche and functions, working with clients to help them execute strategies that they have. A lot of consulting firms will come and give you grand ideas, will tell you what you need to do to get where you need to go, but they will not show you how you need to get there. So we found that was lacking, and coming from a company which is an amazing teaching institution, I would call it, because it grows you from the ground up, PNG. We learned a lot about execution. The execution machine of fast-moving consumer goods, where you cannot afford to waste a single second, completely made us very robust business leaders in terms of not just looking at the plans as they are, but making those plans come to life and succeed. So Nuraya is a consulting firm that's bridging that. We're trying to take our clients from that space of, I have this grand document, I don't know what to do with it. Then we work with them in execution and finding out the best strategies and eliminating what is, noise, and just and the fluff, and bringing on the realities of it. And the beauty of Nuraya is that we work with you. We actually are that consultant who doesn't want to give you a document and leave. We want to work with you the journey down the line. And our value as a company as well is that we've put a value proposition where we continue earning with you. As your business grows, we earn out of it, which means we are invested in the journey. We just don't take a fee at the onset. Thank you very much. It was good working with you, and we walk out. But we have this proposition that creates value for you and for me towards the goal that you're working towards. So that's consulting, and that very much feels like the corporate world that I used to be in, and that takes on that space in my mind. The next one is a studio. It's a salon, but we like to call it a studio. So Jazz Lock Studio, and that's why we are also redefining the presence of beauty, and especially Afro beauty in the Middle East. This is born out of actually a need. Sometimes they say when you're starting a business, why are you starting? What are you fixing for? This is 4 ladies, myself and 3 other ladies, trying to fix for a problem we felt ourselves. We've experienced it. The world of beauty, especially for Afro hair like mine, has been such that it's not elevated. It doesn't get into that space. I mean, a salon space should be a space of therapy, a space of relaxation, a space that is, beautiful ambience. It gives you all that. And there's a lot of that was missing. I never found that space when I've been in the Middle East for now 8 years. And so we came together, 2 ladies, myself, who's finance, bringing the finance skills, one of our partners bringing the marketing skills, and 2 of the other partners actually bringing in the hardcore stylist skills. And so the 4 of us make that combination of bringing beauty or African, and it's African premium beauty into really the, let's call it at our doorstep, which was not hardly is existing in the Middle East. So yeah, those are the spaces that I'm in right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tell me a little bit more. I know Nuraya talks about whole systems thinking, and whole system thinking across the world excites me, be it in the area of health, be it in the area of consulting, because we are not individual parts, and it's a machinery that's moving together, and we cannot try and fix one symptomatic problem and expect that the entire chain will realign itself accordingly. So beautiful. Touch a little more about whole systems thinking.
Lovely. I mean, Nuraya is such a beautiful setup because the 5 of us bring different skills. So before Nuraya, I was, and that's why I said I sort of stumbled but didn't stumble on this entrepreneurial journey. In that space, when I left corporate, I took a career break, and that's the time when I was just formulating what's going to be my next right? Am I going to go back to corporate? What will I do different? And I actually now played around with the idea of consulting, but I was doing it as Grace. The skills that I have are only finance. I mean, of course, integrated with business. Of course, they are rich, but I did realize down the line something was missing, because I'd have a client who wants finance or if I was to fix their whole ecosystem, I needed other skills working with me. And so when Nuraya came together, when friends called me and said, you know what, all of us are doing different things. If we bring an ecosystem of the 5 of us together, we will be able to fix for any client as many issues as possible. So I bring in the finance skills. I have a partner who brings in the marketing / branding skills. Then we have supply chain, which is, how we move the products and all. And then we have sales. So if you are a business that's looking at execution and wants to, sometimes actually you realize you don't know what you don't know as a business. When you come to us as a client, there's one thing you think you're fixing for. What is so valuable is that we look at your whole business. You do not ask us to look at it in that way, but what we think is wise is to tell you, let's just step back a bit. Let's look at everything that you're doing in your business. You may think you're solving for the problem, but you're solving for the symptom. And because we bring all these different skills and mindsets, then we are able to see where the problem is and what is broken and what is not. And that whole ecosystem, wholesome, making it end to end. We love to use this word when back at work, and we still use it. End to end thinking about your business, about the client needs, and about the problems that you are solving. And so that's how I'd look at it from a Nuraya point of view. So yes.
Great. Tell me, you touched upon it briefly, that you took a pause after quitting your corporate, and then you went on a little bit of soul searching where you tried to figure out your purpose in life and the legacy that you want to leave behind. Talk us through that journey and talk us how is that journey so important, that part of the interim so important, and how is it contributing to your growth now?
Yeah, I think when I left P&G and having worked for 15 years continuously, and the first time you entered the company, you were just, a young out of campus, and life happened. At some point, I got married. At some point, I got children. At some point, I'm growing my career. I'm looking for promotions. At some point, you're relocating. You're doing different regions. I mean, it was just happening. It was just rolling. And actually, now in hindsight, I recall, we used to have, the company would give you time out. Like, I forget the name now, but when you want to take like 3 months continuously. Sabbatical, thank you, that's the word. So the policy allowed for sabbatical, but I didn't know except one person in my whole career who ever took a sabbatical, ever. And we would look at it like, what do you mean? And there was a point even I thought, maternity would be like such an amazing break. I would have time to think about myself. At some point, I even wanted to do some exams during maternity. And because I'm like, I'll have so much time. That was my first child. Of course, I was so wrong. My boss told me all the best. He was already a parent and he told me all the best. You want to do exams? Okay. When you come back, let me know how it goes. I never did my exams because it is a whole job, And in that whole space, when I left, I realized, number one, I was really burnt out. And naturally, because at that point when I was leaving, I was holding my role, I was holding motherhood, and I was finishing my MBA. I'd started an MBA at London Business School and I'd done it for 2 years. So by the time I was leaving, everything coincided at the same time, I was also graduating. So I had taken on so much. And of course, the body just continues to absorb, but you don't realize at the point at which you're collapsing. And when it all happened, I realized my body couldn't function as well as I needed it to. Yes, I didn't have something to do immediately, but also taking a break had to be conscious. Because when I finished, when I got out of corporate, I started thinking, okay, my CV, who do I know? What jobs are in the market? What will I be looking for? And I went into that active mode again. And then I realized it wasn't adding value, because when I kept asking myself, where do I want to go to this company and not this company? How is this different from where I came from? What's going to be growth for me? Is it just about a paycheck? And when you put things in perspective and you remove the paycheck from the conversation, it becomes a very different thing. And when I moved the paycheck away and said, what is my next legacy? I've done 15 years. What do I want the next 15 years to hold? I realized just jumping into the next job will not create for me a legacy. I will go into that rut again. And so within that space, I took the time, like it was even difficult to rest. So I was so busy working around my kids, doing this for them, taking them here. And I said, I have to step back and I have to just normalize resting. I think it's such a difficult thing for us as career women, especially running families. We do not normalize resting. So even if you don't have someone to report to at that time, you're in the house, you're trying to fix this, you're trying to cook here, you're trying to do that, and you still get to bed very tired. Your mind is still not thinking at what should I be doing for my next 15. And so I had a friend who had consulted a coach. I'd never had a coach in my life before. That's the second thing that was very different for me, other than normalizing resting. And she connected me with a coach. She always talked so highly about this coach. Since she got this person, I was like, no, who's a coach? I mean, I've had mentors, I've had bosses, they talk to me about what they think, how the journey is out there. But this was a very different journey. And so this person that I got was both a personal and a career coach, because I didn't know what to do with myself. And I also didn't know what to do with my career. I have all these many things, but I wasn't clear. And they helped really over 3 months bring so much to perspective. And it helped that journey for me, because I was a patient and I was trying to solve it for myself. And I realized I couldn't. And so when I moved to that space of talking to somebody, having sessions, assessing that's when I said, you know what? I have to intentionally say, I am not going to do 1, 2, 3 in this space of the next 6 months, in terms of, choices that I made at that time. And then I also made choices on what I'm going to do. because that's now what brought my mind into that space of thinking, maybe I could touch on this. And while you're in that openness, things flow, things come. And I'm telling you, things just found me when I was in that openness. I was open to conversations and discussions that I would naturally never be open to. Yeah.
Very, very important learnings you have brought forth. I just want to summarize it for our listeners. You were almost getting burnt out, and when you took the paycheck out of the conversation, and then you are looking at what am I devoting or giving my life up for? And that is when the conversations started flowing for you. Also pausing and just allowing for the universe to unfold the plans that it has for us. And the beautiful thing of allowing yourself to be guided by a coach, to be shown the way by a coach. Yeah, important, beautiful learnings for our listeners. Moving on, changing stances a bit. Tell us about the wow moments you've had during this journey of entrepreneurship.
Let me speak of jazz. Jazz, I think, Nuraya feels very much like a seamless integration from the world that I was in into a new world, but a world that I love to be in because it gives me lots of. First of all, I speak up. It's our business, so we say when you know something's yours, of course you lead it differently rather than you're an employee and you're in a phase of I'm doing what either I may take initiative, but I'm still here for what happens at the end of the month. But this is very different when you're building your own thing. And I talk about legacy in this sense because I feel like these spaces are building a legacy for me. But jazz, I think, has really stretched me. Number one, salon. if all my friends who keep asking me, Grace, you have a salon? First they're like, okay, wow. For me, hair and beauty, especially hair, has always been a big thing. Like looking good, I always think this is my crown. So the first thing when you see me, you need to just first have that space of, oh, she looks so good. And already you have a formed, image about me, and then it makes things much better when the conversations kick in. But also gives you respect. It gives you a lot of things, and it gave me that in the boardroom. For me, hair was a big deal. So beauty is not something that's far removed for me, but me being in an entrepreneurial space for hair and beauty is such a stretch and a learning curve. And what I love about this is about being in jazz is this. It has taken me back to a classroom. So unlike spaces where I know what I'm bringing, I've done it for years, I know how to do it. And of course, I'll keep learning depending on the industry and the client. I keep learning, that is true. But a lot of things in Nuraya are autopilot. In jazz, there is no autopilot for me. In jazz, put the finance aside. The handling of money and the business and everything, that I can do. But for you to become a great finance leader, you need to understand your business. And that's always what has worked for me. I always understood my brands. I always understood my business. And because of that integration, I was able to do a good job. And that's why I like to call myself a finance leader. I'm not an accountant. Like I'm not there to punch numbers. I'm there to see how to drive better for the brand. And so the brand of jazz has been a space that has created in me an opportunity to really go back to the classroom, an opportunity to really be humble and to say I don't know, an opportunity to see how I can stretch myself and elevate my skills in an industry that I'm not familiar with. So I like that. I always like growing, and I like that space. That's why when I was asking myself, if I'm going to go back to this company and be an employee, what am I going to learn? What will be my growth? And those questions needed to be important, because when you get to that place of plateau and things become hard, these are the only things that keep driving you. I'm like, I really like what I do. I really like that I'm learning, even today. And so my wow moment in the world of beauty has been that it's an amazing, I know about myself in the space of spending, but to understand women from that space. Women love to be valued. They love to be given a space and an audience where they will be elevated, where the conversations will be had. You will be so, like, I never used to understand this psychology, but being in the salon, you just open up to your stylist and you don't know them. Like, you don't go way back. I mean, you may have been with them for 10 years, but you met them as a stranger, and you'll be so shocked how people just sit on their chair and open up, how they just come and feel. I mean, we've created that space, and that's the feedback we're getting. The space has good aura. It brings peace, it brings that calmness, and some come and want to sleep. We've made it so comfortable that you can actually sleep as you're getting your hair made, or you can bubble up and give your conversations and share what it is. And so my wow has been in that space of learning more about women, because I'm very passionate as well in the journey of women and mentoring, whether it's young girls or it's with fellow women, just working on different journeys and different spaces. And it's given me that window in a way that's more alive rather than textbook. Just being in that space of interacting, being in that space of working with people, even just trying to build our employees as well, to build the spaces that they are in, to have them feel confident in the spaces that they are in and working with us. That for me has been in this journey the greatest factor. And humbling myself and going back to basics. Yes.
Beautiful. Just summarizing once again, being the student and being the learner while you are experiencing the journey unfold for yourself is your biggest wow till now, is what I heard. Yeah. Beautiful. How the entrepreneurial journey, so many people, they ask me, what if we fail? Number one, what if you succeed? And then, even if you fail, you have learned so much during that journey, because that is valuable learnings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so true. Yeah. I think maybe if I can even point out about failure, and was I strongly convinced when I started this entrepreneurial journey that I'm going to do this for life? Even today, some of my partners keep laughing at me and going like, sometimes I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but I keep adding my percentages of which foot is in. So I'm more entrepreneurial now than I am, wanting to walk back into an office. But even as I stepped into that, I kept saying, and this is how it started. I said, you know what? I want a job in a year. So while I'm taking this time, let me just try out something. Let me see whether it works, whether it fails. And so in that space, then I get in with a very open mindset. So I like what you say, what if it succeeds? Because that's fear always drives us. What if it fails? What happens? And so as I got in, I didn't think about it, what if it succeeds? But I did think about it, if it fails, fine. I mean, it's something that I've put my mind to, being open to it working or not working. And so it really drives you through the highs and the lows of what it is that you're going through, because it will not be a rosy journey. Enough curveballs have come our way, and we're still, taking care of that. And who knows where this journey will end, but we believe in the vision. Yeah.
Good. And I'm so happy that you're providing a space where mental health can be honored for women, because so many women out there in the world today carry the unseen baggages of emotional health, holding it together for their families, that there is no space for them to actually relax. Because, somebody was saying women carry an invisible checklist in their mind all the time. And to be able to offer them a space where they can just themselves just be, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that to the world, Grace. Moving forward, tell us about the challenges, because I'm sure as many high points are there, challenges also are equally there in an entrepreneurial journey. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I also have the pleasure of doing these two businesses that are different in this way. One is very operational heavy, so it needs you to step up, get out. Like you can hardly do a lot of things on the desk, but yes, you can. The other one is on the other space, thinking heavy, strategizing, working with each other in that space and capacity, and getting the best out of each other in terms of how you think and how you execute. So if I think about Nuraya, Nuraya has been entering that space where you've worked with people for almost 10 years, because we all come from that space and we worked with each other for, I think the average we interacted was 10 years, yeah, which is a long time to work with people, which meant we know how to finish each other's sentences. We know how we work with each other. But I'll tell you, as much as we did that, we did work in teams at any point in time with, like, I would work with one partner on a certain role, but not with the others. But I've interacted with everybody. We've all interacted with each other at different roles. But bringing this combination of 5 people to do one thing is not an easy feat. These are 5 different personalities, and it always takes me back to marriage. Marriage is just 2 people. And it is tough. You have been raised differently, you know different things, you do things differently. And then you're just expected to create this, fireworks, and everything just continues and that takes time. And I think, when we get into marriage, you have all this conversation, you have people talking to you and telling you, if you have people mentoring you. So you kind of also mentally ready walking into, this is not going to be very easy. I need to open up my mind this way. But in business, there is no sort of mentor couple working with you until you choose to take on one. And I think the thing that people do, because I'm into partnership kind of businesses, is, what is your working style? How do you create this team in that whole, the way they talk about gelling, before all the calm, there's a storm, How do you walk around that? What are the spaces that you've put of either let's call it respectfully disagreeing with the other person and giving a strong opinion? How do you break the tie? What do you do? And of course, we started as, oh yes, we are friends, oh yes, we are great, and we're gonna work together. And then the work started coming, and then we started seeing our strengths and our opportunities, and us pushing our strengths into projects because we're trying to do them together. And that really revealed cracks. It revealed on how do we go about it? What is this partnership made up of? And one of the most important things we did therefore is step back and say we need to put together a partnership agreement. So step back and put the legalities in place. Why? I mean, you're a company, you're registered, but that doesn't say anything. It just says it's called Nuraya, it's made up of 5 people, and this is how their shareholding looks like. It doesn't say the ways and ways of operating and ways of doing business. No. So you need to go back and intentionally sit and say, this is how we're going to do business. This is how we resolve conflicts. This is how we break the tie. This is how, if one of us wants to leave, this is what we follow, right? You can't live in a world of, we shall always be like this, and, different needs, different things will come up. So anticipate that future and getting onto the first client that we ever tried to work for. I mean, we stepped back and thought, my goodness, what a disaster. It was a great output for the client, but it was a disaster for us as a team. And that really, because we are also smart people, and that's what I love about these teams that I've put myself in, that is the realization that didn't work out well, and we need to find something. And to sit down and acknowledge what we didn't do right, and now break it down to what we need to do in the future. And our subsequent jobs have become so much better in terms of how we do them. There's always a leader. I mean, everyone is a cook. We're all alphas. So if you don't choose a leader, then problems come there as well. So that has really been one of the biggest challenges, the gelling of a team. And I've never been in a partnership as technically. A lot of people talk about, oh my goodness, are you sure you want to work with people? I mean, I've worked with people and in teams my whole life. So this is not a difficult thing to do. But when much more is invested, your time, your money, there is so much more invested here. It becomes a bit intense. So that was important. I think challenges on looking at jazz, I would call them out as the operational challenges. That, way more than what I ever did, requires my operational mind to be so alert. I'm telling you, you open the morning and the evening is so different. For example, we look at the situation as is happening today. Jazz has been affected, Nuraya has not been affected at all. Like, we are still doing work for clients, we're still moving the needle, we're still working from the spaces that we are in. But, once this things broke out in the Middle East, in terms of the geopolitical, we had to think about the staff. Where are they? Are they safe? Are they going to come to work today? No, they will not. Okay, what will happen? Okay, how will the bills, you even start thinking, how will the bills be paid if we're closing doors? And actually, you have no option than to close doors. So when you're in an operational service space and you're in a space where your income comes from how the day will be, you actually cannot predict. It's very, very tough to predict it. I thought Nuraya would be the one that would be harder to predict, but I think jazz is harder. When you're working with behavioral, the output of your client is very much starts from here, and how they feel, how they were treated, and actually the actual output of the service. And that journey is very difficult to predict how it will be. We want it to be amazing, we've designed it to be amazing, but many things can go very different in the span of 2 to 3 hours. So the challenge has very much been that, and trying to really figure for that. I think the other space where it's been tough is waiting it out. I think from a business that is, especially if you go to, let me call jazz a bit of a niche business, because we are targeting a certain clientele. It's not that there are no salons in Dubai or the Middle East, there are very many. But what we are trying to solve is very different. When you are the first of your type, when you're entering the market with a new idea, it is not easy to break and bridge. And you need to be very patient with the journey of being new in the market and introducing something that's not known. You're the one educating people, you're the one telling them the importance of being in this space. And only until they show up is when they experience. But the journey from where they are at home to when they decide to show up, that's not an easy journey to reach. And that also has been a big challenge for us in terms of, getting jazz to where we know it will go to. Yeah.
Great, good. Lot of meaty learnings you've shared. I just want to compartmentalize into 2 different sections. One is for Nuraya, just because the learnings are very different and the challenges are very different because the nature of businesses are very different. I heard in case of Nuraya, you talking about the 5 partners coming together, forming a team, even though you had a strong friendship in place originating from the parent company. But still, when you own a client, just having clarity on who will be the leader in the team, because there are so many alphas and all of them are really good. So the team going through the process of norming, storming, and then performing, keeping the view of the client's output at the highest. I heard that. I also heard that you had to step back and write down your contracts. What if somebody wants to leave? How will the scenario look like? I heard that. In case of jazz, I heard operational challenges of trying to carve a niche market, trying to be the front runner in creating a segment which does not exist so powerfully still now, and trying to get people to experience that service, because when they come and experience, then there'll be word of mouth. But before they experience the service, how can you drive the footfalls to your salon so that people get to experience what you are giving out as an offer? Beautiful. Okay. The last question is, looking back at your entrepreneurial journey, what will be some words of wisdom for people who are starting out? Or the other way to think about it, what is the advice that you would give to yourself,
Okay. I think definitely not for the faint-hearted.
Definitely not for the
faint-hearted. That one everybody knows. But then there is something we outplay. The other day we thought when you get into and become an entrepreneur, the hours are mine. I mean, I love the flexibility. I can always say I'm not able to make all this meeting but we'll do an alternative, of course, depending on the client and everything. But the flexibility is much, much more than if you're typically employed. However, because this thing is, it is you or you. If you want to sleep, sleep. It's okay. You go, wake up at 10, go to bed at 4. It's up to you. But the thing sleeps when you sleep. The thing is awake when you're awake and you're on it, right? And so that places a different burden on you. And I think that's what people don't realize, because you can't be saying I'm checking out at 5. The thing is, you can check in at 12 p.m., but you check out when you need to check out, right? So the flexibility is there. You don't have to check in at 8, close at 5. But sometimes it will need that you will be checking out at midnight, right? Because it is what is required. Because if I sleep, then the job's not done. Then the repercussion and all the other things that come with it. So if I would, go back, and what I would tell myself or what I would tell somebody else, this is such a beautiful journey. It is a journey that I think we can't all be entrepreneurs, but I think a lot of us need to experience. I don't know. I'm trying to create a legacy in the space of, I can actually see myself doing this and, walking into a space of retirement where I'm still very much active and I'm working on my clients, or I'm, running a whole chain of jazz salons across the Middle East, because that's our vision. I can see that very much happening, and I would love that to happen, and that becomes my legacy together with my partners. But as you go into this journey, take it with that burden already in mind, that you have to be so careful. No one's gonna stop me now from burnout except myself. There is no, there I had that rush and that adrenaline, and I worked and all that. But this is more dangerous. That's why you hear a lot of entrepreneurs going into burnout, because no one stops them. And the beauty, the lovely thing about being an entrepreneur is that you're like, just the next thing, tomorrow, I'll do it, I'll finish, I'll do it. And you're so excited. And then the next thing comes, and the next thing comes. And you don't want to say no. In this world, you have to normalize also saying no, and saying, this is my capacity, and this is as much as I can do. Do I want to have 10 branches of jazz at some point in our life? Yes. Are they to be open in the next 6 months? No. So pace yourself with the decisions that you are making for your business. How many clients are you taking on at a time? And this is now what kills most of us, because we don't, I always ask that I'm content in my life. Because sometimes if you're not, when you take contentment away, that's when the system collapses. You have to tell yourself what is enough, because we can all have infinity amount of whatever, resources, money, everything. But what is enough for you? So I think that is so important. It's a space of saying, no guys, this is enough. This is what we can take. Or now we can expand ours, and you take on things that way. So I think that's one of the things that I would really ask on entrepreneurs to think about when they're entering into the journey, or if they're already in the journey, to really reset their clock. I think that the other thing is, I cannot say how, there is no amount of, the fact that I come in with experience, I am 10 times a better entrepreneur. I am not falling and picking myself up because that is exhausting and very painful and costly if money is involved. Because of coming in from a point of having experience, having seen what it means to work, even if with someone else's resources. I work with the company's resources. What it means to do the things as they should be done. I was in a company that's very structured. What it means to put structure. I have very few moments of falling. And even when I'm about to fall, I realize this is not the right way. So very fast, I reconfigure and change how things are being done. That is so helpful. And I remember when we met with at the school, and we were talking to our children about careers, and a lot of, this young generation is very amazing in terms of how they want to be business people and the ideas they have are grand. But my advice to them was that if you can get an opportunity to just go into a space that is already conjured for you to work, to measure your output, measure how you synthesize data, see structure, work with people, you are much better set up for being an entrepreneur rather than jumping in immediately after university. And if you really must and have that grand idea, make sure you take mentors who have walked the journey with you before. Like people who are, beyond your parents and beyond your friends. Intentional chase of a mentor who's walked as typical journey as you before, because that cannot be undermined. The value of that experience cannot be undermined when you're an entrepreneur.
Beautiful learnings. I want to recap, and I know you touched upon this thing, normalizing rest. So the ownership lies on the entrepreneur, yet we must know where we need to stop. The beauty of realizing satiety in this world, which almost always creates the aspiration of the next step and the next thing to acquire, whether be it cars, houses, our lifestyles, or our degrees, the always on culture, and just to realize the beauty of satiety in that world. Wow, beautiful. And very close to my heart as well. And also you talked about this is not for the faint-hearted. And you talked about putting yourself through the implementation grind first before you take on entrepreneurship. So you know what it takes to be there. At least you have the discipline. And also you talked about you sleep, the business sleeps. The ownership lies completely. And though you have the flexibility of choosing yes or no, or saying no to projects, but you almost always must realize that driving the business is your responsibility and nobody else's. Beautiful.
Yes. And maybe let me put a caveat, not to say that we don't create businesses that don't run on their own. But here I look at you as an entrepreneur, not as the doer, as the person who is driving the vision. So, I mean, not so much to think I have to wake up, open the door, in that. Think more as a person driving the vision. I mean, if you take a back seat, your vision will also take a back seat. So we have to still be on that mode as much as we can. But of course, we put systems where the machine runs operationally without us. We don't have to be carrying the key, cleaning the space, put systems in place. Yes.
Put systems in place, rely on people, delegate wherever possible. Also, you talked about taking on a mentor who's intentional and has walked the space before you. That's also beautiful learning. There was one thing you talked before we started recording the interview, and I want to touch upon that. What happens to the self-identity? Because you worked for a company which is very well known. When you walk into rooms and offices, you get to realize that the brand P&G speaks before Grace comes into the picture. So touch upon that. How was it to let go of that brand and to acquire Grace as a brand?
Yeah, I think this is one of the spaces the coach really, really helped me, because when we summed it up why I approached, I just told her I'm feeling lost. I didn't have like a summary of why I've come to you, Anyway, that's how you go, and then the doctor diagnoses and gives you a name to your sickness. And we realized it was a bit of an identity crisis. And, there are people who you will tell, a lot of people who know me would not have believed that, because in the spaces that I appear, I'm very confident, I'm very, I will be spoken, I'm an extrovert. But you do know deep down there's something that's amiss. And when I stepped out and when I couldn't introduce myself, I remember then I mentioned I was doing my MBA. When I started my MBA and we were introducing ourselves, and we are all people from all different big short spaces and all that. For the longest time, of course, that's how I introduced myself. So I was known by my classmates, Grace from P&G, yeah. But then there wasn't anything beyond that. But it didn't occur to me that there's anything wrong with that. When I stepped out and I said, and I remember looking at my LinkedIn and saying, what am I going to write on my LinkedIn now? Like, which day will I write? And you're just thinking, what? And that's when it occurs to you, wow, how much of you is intertwined in whether it's an entity, and sometimes whether it's people, whether sometimes even as women it could be I'm a mother and it's intertwined around my children, right? And then when they leave the nest, you're like, oh my goodness, what then am I, what am I good for? Because no one needs me anymore. And then our identity collapses in that sense. And when all those things were unfolding, and I remember being very shy. If you look at my LinkedIn 2 years before and now, I'm like two different personalities, because that space when I talked with my coach and we understood, I actually was everything to everyone except myself. I was very much to my company, very much to my children, everything. I was a great student. I was everything to everyone except myself. When we really, really removed it all, me standing in the middle, I couldn't describe myself. And I remember the exercise she gave me, which was so hard to do. Describe yourself without using wife, mother, employee. Don't put words like, I don't know, PNG. Don't, just describe yourself. Who are you? Not even a daughter. Like, just who are you? If you are a specimen, who are you? And that took me so long and it was so hard. When I'm just like, okay, mother, okay, oh, I love, okay, but who are you really? And I took time to write that down and identify myself and remember, I'm a cheerful person, I'm a joyful person, I love this. That's when you realize you have zero hobbies, you've forgotten zero things about what you love to do. I used to love reading books. How many have I read in the last 5 years? None. Like, it just became, one of those spaces where I relished in bringing me at the center of things. And that is not a selfish thing. Actually, that's a great thing. Because if you are not clear, if you are the center of whether it's your company, whether your children, your family, you as the parent, everything, and this center is not clear, when the center collapses, the whole ecosystem will collapse. And that's what occurred to me. So I have to be so clear as a center that if there is a problem with this center, then it is fixed outside of the ecosystem. Because if it's relying on you, then you have to be steady and have it together. And so use that space to really identify myself and know who I am. And I was no longer afraid of walking into spaces and just saying, I remember even before I registered a company, hi, I'm Grace, and I'm very good at finance. I'm a professional. I am a consultant. I didn't even have I walked into some expo. And this lady gave me an ear when I didn't have to call out the big names, the big shots, the big anything. I just explained to her what I know, why I know what I know, my exposure to many things, and we just clicked. And I realized I don't have to call on ammunition in the sense of, big names and big shots. And then the most humbling thing was when I started introducing myself in some spaces and saying I'm from PNG, people would ask me, what's PNG? Who is PNG? And then I'm like, I still have to explain. So can I just find an identity for me that does not have to do with anybody else, that I have to explain who they are? And if you ask me who's Grace, I can tell you confidently who's Grace. And that became the beginning of my journey and just redefining myself. And yes, I am a woman. I love what I do. I love my finance professional, and I like to build other people. I like to be in spaces where we grow and create an atmosphere for women just like me to also grow in that space of their world. Whether I want to be a career woman, whether I want to be a stay-at-home, whichever space it is, I love to give. I'm bubbly. I love to be in spaces with people. I'm an extrovert. And all these personalities now fit into the spaces where I work and the jobs that I do. And that became my identity. That became who I am. Yes.
Beautiful. The whole conversation of self-worth and self-identity and rooting it. You didn't use the word purpose, but I could almost hear what is the purpose of you and your existence beyond you being a mother, a wife, a builder of businesses, and leaning into the legacy of PNG, a brand like PNG. Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Grace, for your time today and bringing out the depth and the richness of your experiences for our listeners. Your journey showcases grit, lots of grind that you've put yourself through, and oodles of gratitude that you thank the universe for what the universe brings on your plate. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the platform. And it was so seamless. And thank you for making it so enjoyable. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you like this interview, please don't forget to subscribe by pressing the bell icon and follow us on our social media handles as we talk to more and more micro entrepreneurs who are living their dreams boldly.